Hey, what's up, movie people? I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm gonna do another tier list. We're continuing the weekly tier list. This one is gonna be all the Marvel villains that leads up to, I think, Miss Marvel or She-Hulk. I think it includes all of them. We're doing all the villains. But before we start, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 100 subscribers. It helps me out a lot, and it's free for you to subscribe. So just do it. But let's get right to the tier list. Alright, before we get started, I am a big Marvel fan, but I'm just gonna say this. I already forgot like half of these villains' names, but I know like their motivations and what film they're from, so don't worry. I know what I'm doing with them, but let's just say the names, I don't know all their names anymore. First up, we got Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan himself. Came off Creed 3 this year. He's doing so well. Black Panther, he's an awesome villain in my opinion. His motivations are there. He's really strong, let's say, physically. He did die in the first movie, but he did come back in Black Panther 2, just for a little bit. But I'm kind of sad that he died. But I think I'm going to put Killmonger in the great tier for now. I will move these around at the end a little bit when I do the final ranking. Next up, we got the Ice King. I think that's from Thor 1. I don't remember a lot about this villain because he's really not there too much. Really, they do fight him in the beginning and a little bit at the end, but he's not really there, so I'm going to put him in the bad tier. Next up, is that Bucky Barnes, our Winter Soldier? One of the best villains in the MCU, the Winter Soldier. His introduction in the Winter Soldier movie is actually so, like, it gives me goosebumps every time I watch it because the Russo brothers crafted an amazing movie. And his backstory is awesome. Starts in the first Avenger, but the Winter Soldier is just excruciatingly cool villain in the spy thriller that the Winter Soldier movie is. And I feel like Sebastian Stan really does play a really good villain here. He does turn good, but his villain role in the Winter Soldier is just so terrifying. It's one of the best. I'm going to put him in awesome. Next up, we got Mysterio. Mysterio is an interesting one because a lot of people don't like Far From Home. But I think Far From Home is a really great movie, and I think Mysterio is also great because it's played by the great Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal is awesome, and I didn't know anything about Mysterio before I saw Far From Home, but he is just such an interesting villain. How it's just all technology on him, and his fight scenes were awesome. So I'm gonna put him in the great tier. Also, I'm gonna go pretty fast during this because we do have a lot of villains to talk about. That's the fire guy from Thor: The Dark World. No, Thor Ragnarok. I guess he's causes Ragnarok. He's not really there for that long, but he's cool in the fight scene in the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the mad tier because he's really not there for that long. Red Skull from the first Avenger. Red Skull is a cool villain, but he really doesn't have any major powers. He just looks cool and he's menacing, works for Hydra, starts the whole Hydra thing. I'm going to put him in the good tier. That's the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming is one of my favorite Marvel films, and I think Toomes who is Vulture, who's played by Michael Keaton, is an awesome villain. I hope we see more from him fighting Tom Holland, but I don't know what's going to go down with that because we last saw him in Morbius. But I think the Vulture is a great villain. He's going in the great tier. That is the villain from Agatha. She's some kind of witch, but that's Catherine Hahn who plays her. I don't know. She is an interesting villain because she really didn't... She's kind of a secondary villain of that show, and we haven't really seen much of her, but we are getting to see her in Agatha, her show that's going to come out. I don't even know when that's coming out, but I hope we do see more from her. So overall, I wasn't that impressed with her. I'm going to put her in okay. WandaVision as a whole is pretty good though. This is, who is this? I don't know his name, but he's from Iron Man 3. He's the real Mandarin from the end, and he's like the fire guy. I was actually scared of these people when I was younger for some reason, but he is He's an okay villain. I'll give him that. He's okay. He has cool powers. I like him a little bit. And then we have one of the guys from Thor: The Dark World who doesn't have any speaking really in it. So he is going to take our first awful spot. And then we got the guy from Captain America, the First Avenger, basically the Red Skull's assistant, and he's kind of leads into the Winter Soldier by creating all the technology for Hydra. I think he actually played a big role in creating Hydra into what is now in the Marvel Universe. So I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the okay tier. And then the gold people from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we didn't see much of them. We know that they were chasing down the Guardians because Rocket stole their batteries. And now they're creating Adam Warlock. And they're going to be more prominent probably in the third one, because they have Adam Warlock now created and they're going to go after the Guardians. So I could easily see them rise on this. But I'm going to go ahead and put them in the meh tier because they're just not doing too much in Guardians 2 except chasing the Guardians to their next destination. Next up, we got Zemo. Zemo is a really awesome villain because he didn't even have to do anything in Civil War to get all the Avengers fighting each other. He just was so cool in that movie by hardly doing anything. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier, he has a lot of different scenes in there, a lot of more fun scenes. And I'm not sure if we're going to see him in Thunderbolts, but I'm pretty sure we'll see him sometime again. But I'm going to put Zemo in the awesome tier. Next up is the fake Mandarin, who is hardly in Iron Man 3, but he's kind of funny in that. But he does show up in Shang-Chi for a little bit as really not a villain anymore, so I'm not really going to count that. But just off Iron Man 3, I'm going to give him a meh tier. This is going to be Claw from Black Panther. The first Black Panther, yes, this is Claw. I feel like Claw is pretty good. Andy Serkis always knows how to play a cool villain, but he doesn't have a huge role in the movie except being Killmonger's second man. And he was actually also in Age of Ultron for a little bit. I do remember he was in Age of Ultron just for a little bit. So for Claw, I'm going to put him in the okay tier. Next up, we got the Collector. I think that's the Collector from Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't even know he was a villain because he didn't do too much villainous stuff. But if we're going to grade them on being villains, I'm going to give the Collector a bad tier because he's not really a villain in my opinion. This is Crossbones from Captain America Civil War, and actually from Winter Soldier. The character crossed over a little bit. Crossbones is cool. He has cool powers, but I feel like Marvel could have done so much more with him and Frank Grillo. Sadly, Frank Grillo's moving to DC now, but I don't know. Crossbones is a meh for me because we didn't see too much of him. And now we got Cole Obsidian, I think his name is, from Infinity War, one of Thanos' minions he uses. He has some interesting scenes, but overall, just like Crossbones, he's more of just a meh kind of villain. Next up, we got Dormammu from Doctor Strange. He has some cool moments at the end of Doctor Strange. And I have a feeling we're going to see him in the third Doctor Strange with Clea, I think. And we're going to go back to that kind of stage of Marvel, go to space, visit Dormammu a little bit. So Dormammu, I liked him a little bit, so I'm going to put him in okay. This is the guy from Black Widow. He was like kind of capturing all the widows and making them do stuff. I don't know his name because he's not very good, and he just showed up like the last 20 minutes and did his thing, and we basically killed him and all that. So I'm going to put him in the bad tier. Next up, we got, is that Caecilius from Doctor Strange? I think that is Mad Mikkelsen played him, I'm pretty sure. And I feel like Caecilius, he had an interesting plotline and story developed for him. I'm really biased towards Doctor Strange and his villains because Doctor Strange has such cool visuals and I'm there for all those visuals. But Caecilius was pretty cool, but overall he's a little like underdeveloped, so I'm going to put him in the okay tier. Next up is Ebony Maw, I think his name is, from Infinity War. He was a little bit better than Cole Obsidian, but he also didn't do much, but his speech was pretty awesome in Infinity War. I'm going to put him in the Omeh tier. This is Ego. Ego is his name, from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a very underrated Marvel movie in my opinion. But Ego, he's so cool in my opinion. I loved Ego a lot because what they did in the final battle, what James Gunn did with Ego and how he's Peter Quill's dad, it's really horrifying that he's actually a whole planet and controls the whole planet. But I think that's what makes him really cool, in my opinion. And I think that movie just has a beautiful arc for his dad and Peter. So I'm going to put Ego in great. Next up is Thanos. Thanos needs no introduction. We all know Thanos is amazing. What he was able to do in Infinity War and Endgame, and Infinity War was basically Thanos' own movie. He had his whole own arc in that movie. What he was able to do with the Infinity Stones was so cool. Endgame, how he got destroyed was awesome. He's going in the awesome tier. Next up is the Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp, that's what it's called, the second Ant-Man. The Ghost is a very underwhelming villain. I wouldn't really call her that much of a villain because she doesn't really do much in the movie until like the end. But her powers are cool, but I feel like her as a character, I didn't connect with her at all. Any of her motives. Supposedly we do see her in Thunderbolts a little bit more, so hopefully she gets more developed in that. But overall, for Ghost, I'm gonna go ahead and put Ghost in the okay tier. She's okay. Next up is that's the Captain America and Winter Soldier guy. Oh, I forgot his name. I love that show, but I forgot his name. He's the fake Captain America, the new Captain America they put him out to be. But he is pretty good. I liked him a decent bit. And he has a little bit of a cool arc in that show. He's like a really evil Captain America. He doesn't stand for what Captain America is. So Sam and Bucky have to put a stop to him. But I'll put him in the good tier. He's not up there with the greats, but he's pretty good. Next up is the girl from Loki series that works for the Timekeepers. I don't really remember her too much because I just remember Loki and Sylvie from that show and Kang showed up. And she kind of works for Kang and is trying to find him at the end. But her motives were okay. But overall, I'm going to put her in the meh tier because I didn't really remember her too much. Next up, we got Nebula. Villain turned good. Guardians 1, I just actually rewatched Guardians 1 today. And Nebula is just an awesome character. If I'm going to take in Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, she is just fantastic in my opinion. And Karen Gillan really brings that character to life so well. So overall, I'm going to put Nebula in the great tier. Next up is the girl from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't remember her name. It might be Carly. I think that's her name. She really wasn't anything great in my opinion. Just basically leads an army of they're not terrorists, I would call them, but they're just fighting against the government for things that they want and blowing up a lot of stuff. So I don't know, is she an awful villain or a bad villain? I will put her in the bad tier. Next up, is that Loki? I think that is Loki. Loki, no introduction for this man either. He is basically a villain turned good. He's a villain turned kind of good. He's still kind of an anti-hero at the end of Thor Ragnarok, but he is an excellent villain. Loki, in the first Avengers and the first Thor, he has his motives set out. He's against his brother and against Odin, but he has a lot of cool moves as Loki, and what he does basically in Avengers is awesome. And then he has his own show where he's kind of like a hero in that show, but he's still kind of like villainous tactics in that show. But Loki always has good quips to him. He also has just good fight scenes, and this man's hair is kind of gorgeous. So I'm going to put Loki in our awesome tier. Next up, we got Hela from Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi did an excellent job with Thor Ragnarok, and Hela is just an excellent villain. I think that's Cate Blanchett that plays Hela. I'm pretty sure that's Cate Blanchett. If it's not, then I'm just stupid. But Hela is a really cool villain, just took over Asgard and caused Ragnarok to happen, kind of. So for Hela, I think I'm going to put Hela in great tier. She basically busted up Thor's hammer and all that and sent him to a different dimension. Next up is another Thanos minion. I don't know her name, but she didn't do too much in that. I'm gonna put her actually in the bad tier. She didn't do too much. Next up is the guy from Guardians 1. I just watched it. Oh, it's Ronan the Accuser. That's his name. Ronan the Accuser. Ronan the Accuser, he has that big axe, and he doesn't do too much in Guardians, but he does beat up Drax, which is cool. And he's in the dance battle with the Guardians at the end. I think he does have a small part in Captain Marvel too. So I liked him a decent bit. I feel like he could have been explored a little bit more. So I'm gonna put him in the okay tier. Next up, Iron Man 2. This is, who is this? I know his name, but I forgot his name. Oh my gosh. But I know he makes all the suits that go against all the Iron Man and Iron Man 2. But I just don't like him as a villain. That's why Iron Man 2 is not that great. It does not have a good villain at all. So I'm gonna put him in the I'm gonna put him in the meh tier. He's not bad, but he didn't do too much. I think that's the Secretary in Winter Soldier. I don't really consider him too much of a villain. Sure, he's in Hydra, but at the same time, he just is not really in the story that much. So I'm gonna use him as another meh tier. He's an okay villain because he's Hydra, and all the Hydra villains are really cool in my opinion. Next up, we got another Infinity War minion of Thanos. I see. This one is also the same with the girl. They didn't do too much, so I'm gonna put him in the bad tier. Next up is the Shocker from Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't know, actually, I forgot what happened to him at the end, but I hope he gets used more in Tom Holland's next trilogy, because the Shocker is kind of a cool villain if they really adapt him in a cool way. So, for Shocker, I'm going to go ahead and put Shocker just in the... Put Shocker... I'm debating okay or meh. I'm going to put him in the okay tier. He's okay. Sunny from Ant-Man and the Wasp. I hated Sunny in his whole arc. I hated that character so much. I just did not really care for him, so he's going to go in bad. Oh, this lady from Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel had terrible villains. I hated it. Except Jude Law. Jude Law's cool. But this lady, I did not like her at all. I don't even remember her. She's going to go in awful. Taskmaster from Black Widow, I think that's his name. Taskmaster was interesting. I like her powers and all that, but I did not like really her backstory. It didn't really get me really liking the character too much more than I already do. I think we do see Taskmaster and Thunderbolts coming up soon, but Taskmaster had some cool fighting, I'll say. So Taskmaster, I'll put in meh tier. I don't really like the character's arc that much, or her character. This is President Ross as a villain. I don't really see President Ross as a villain, so you could say he just wanted to contain the Avengers. So he just wanted to contain the Avengers. I don't really see him as a villain. Villain-wise, he's going to go in bad tier. Next up, we got Abomination from the Incredible Hulk. I didn't even know we were doing Incredible Hulk. But Abomination is pretty cool. Pretty cool fight scenes for Abomination 2. He looks cool. We do see him in She-Hulk a little bit more, so I'm going to put Abomination I'm going to put him in the okay tier. He deserves it. He's cool. He has cool fight scenes. He'll come back, I'm pretty sure. Next up, we got the Evil Elf from Thor the Dark World, I'm pretty sure. Evil Elf. Yeah, I don't care about Thor the Dark World or their villains. It just sucks. Grandmaster. Also, this is the same. Grandmaster is not really a villain, but he's a cool character. I can give him that. But he does have some villainous tactics to keep people like fighting for him. So, and Jeff Goldblum plays him, so that's another plus. So that's going to go in good. Ultron. Ultron is kind of underrated in my opinion. I love Ultron, but I do see how he was underdeveloped a lot in this movie, and he could have been so much better. But I feel like they might bring him back again, but I'm not too sure. But his fight scenes were really cool. And I don't know who voiced him, but I can't find the name who voiced him, but his voice was really cool. I'm gonna put Ultron in the good tier. He's good. This is I don't even know what this guy, Whiplash. That's his name, I think. Whiplash. This is Whiplash from Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 also has a villain problem, in my opinion. Whiplash isn't awful, but he is bad. Kang. Oh, Kang the Conqueror, or just Kang from Loki? I'm not really sure what this is. I'm just gonna count it as both. I'm gonna count this Kang from Loki and Kang the Conqueror from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Kang is actually a brilliant villain. I'm not gonna talk about Jonathan Majors and what his personal life is right now, but I feel like Kang is awesome, and Jonathan Majors really does bring a cool villainous tone to him in every different variant that he plays. So, with that said, I'm going to put him in the great, but Jonathan Majors hopefully plays him for a lot longer and makes more variants happen, so he could probably move up to the top tier. Yellow Jacket from Ant-Man 1. Yellow Jacket, he's kind of cool, but at the same time, he doesn't really do too much, but I'm going to give him okay because his suit is really cool and I love Ant-Man and their abilities. This is Jude Law from Captain Marvel. I forget his name, but Jude Law is also always a plus when I see Jude Law in movies. And I do like Captain Marvel's powers, all their powers, but the villains of Captain Marvel just did not really land with me. So I don't know if I can put him in the bad tier, but I'm actually not going to put him in bad tier. It's going to go meh. This is going to be one of the guys from Guardians 2 who kind of takes over Yondu's ship. I don't really care about him too much. He's kind of just in there for joke purposes. So I'm going to put him in the bad tier. Yeah, that sounds about right. Bad tier. This is one of the guys the real Mandarin uses in Shang-Chi, one of his minions. He has really cool fight scenes, but he was taken out kind of early in the fight, which is kind of sad. I would have liked to see a little bit more of him. There's a little bit more of his backstory, but overall, I'm going to give him okay tier. He's okay. I don't know who this is. This next one? Oh, these are the flying things from Shang-Chi. I think those are what they are, from the dark world where they go to in the end, the third act. I didn't really care for these flying things too much. I think they're just so dark and just not really there. I'm going to put them in awful because I don't really care about them. This is the guy from Shang-Chi who also is Drago in Creed 2. I forget his name, but he's also kind of a side character. Doesn't do too much. I'm going to put him in the meh tier. This is the actual Mandarin, Shang-Chi's father. He was really cool. That was one of my favorite parts of Shang-Chi. I saw Shang-Chi like 4 or 5 times just for him because he was such a cool villain, and how they made the 10 rings and how they used them in that movie were so cool. He had motivations. He had a good opening scene with his wife, and at the end he did die and sacrifice himself, which is kind of sad because I would have liked to see more of him. But overall, he's a great villain. I'm gonna give him great tier. Next up, we got the Ultron from What If, that Marvel show. I did watch all of What If, but this Ultron just showed up at the end, and I don't really remember it, so I'm gonna put it in the bad tier. Evil Doctor Strange. Now, this episode of What if you've never seen What If, there's no need to watch the whole show, but I would watch the Doctor Strange episode because it's a really great episode. And this Doctor Strange is actually really cool in the show and what he's able to do. So with that said, I'm actually going to put him in the good tier. It's the best part of the What If show. Hank Pym had an evil episode in What If, and I didn't really care for that episode or him, so I'm going to put him in the bad tier. Next up, we got Kingpin. If we're only talking about Hawkeye, Kingpin, which was actually kind of a disgrace in my opinion. I don't really know what they were doing with him in that show. If we're only talking about him, I think I'm going to put him in just okay. Because he wasn't bad, he was just really underpowered in that show. They really changed him up too much. This is Maya Lopez in Hawkeye. Echo is her name. I'm pretty sure that's Echo. She has her own show coming out. Hopefully she does good in that show. But in Hawkeye, I don't know. Hawkeye kind of had a villain problem too. So I'm going to put her in the okay tier also. This is the girl from Hawkeye. This is Kate Bishop's mom, I'm pretty sure. She was just not really in it for that long. So I'm going to put her in the bad tier. This is, oh, getting to this, I'm gonna finish off Hawkeye. This is one of the bad guys from Hawkeye, a little bit of a minion. I'm putting him in the med tier. He's better than Kate Bishop's mom. Next up, we got the Spider-Man No Way Home villains. We got Electro. I'm gonna count their previous movies. I don't care. I'm gonna count them because they're variants and they came from those universes, so they count in my opinion. So Electro, let's talk about Amazing Spider-Man 2. He was actually a cool villain in my opinion. His design was shit though, but they fixed it in No Way Home, and his motives in No Way Home really were cool, and his motives in Amazing Spider-Man 2 were pretty good too, but I would have wished they developed him a little bit more in Amazing Spider-Man 2. For that, I'm going to put him in good, not great. Lizard. Amazing Spider-Man 1. Lizard is okay. And then in this one, is No Way Home, he doesn't really do too much. So I'm going to put Lizard in the okay tier. Next up, we got Sandman. Sandman does a little bit in the end of No Way Home, but he doesn't really do too much, but he's not bad there. But in Spider-Man 3, Sandman is actually really cool. And what Sam Raimi was able to do with the effects in that movie and with Sandman, like, his motives are cool, in my opinion. But the effects in Spider-Man 3 and, like, the end battle in that movie is so cool. I'm going to put him in the good tier. Green Goblin. Norman Osborn. We all love Green Goblin. Green Goblin is just so menacing in No Way Home. And, my gosh, he's so cool. And then Spider-Man 1, gosh, what an epic villain. He's going in awesome. Doc Ock. Doc Ock is just like Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, in my opinion. Has a wonderful arc in No Way Home, but Spider-Man 2 is just an amazing movie, and his arc in that is also awesome. So he goes in the awesome tier. Namor from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Namor was really cool. I was really anticipating him and his story because I didn't know anything about him, but I liked him a lot, and his powers are really cool, and hopefully we get to see him more. So I'm going to put Namor in the great tier. Next up, we got Moon Knight character. What's his name? This is Ethan Hawke, but I forget his name. Oh my gosh, I forget his name, but I did like Moon Knight, the show, a lot, in my opinion. But the villain was just okay, in my opinion. This lady is from Miss Marvel. I don't remember her at all. She's one of the side characters' moms. And her episode where she was like a full-out villain and died was just horrible. It was horrible. Miss Marvel, though, as a show is okay. But this villain is just awful. Oh, Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher. Gore the God Butcher is cool. Let me just say that, because Christian Bale really did help that character, but Taika Waititi really didn't help that character out by not showing hardly any of the God butchering that he was supposed to be doing. But still, I feel like Gore the God Butcher has some cool fights, especially on his like home planet where it's black and white. So I'll put him in good. Scarlet Witch, Wanda. I'm just going to count Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness for her because she's the only really a villain there. I feel like she's a good villain. She has her motives, but I'm not going to say they're the strongest motives. They're kind of dumb. But her powers are always awesome to witness. Doctor Strange 2 was kind of a letdown, but it's still a good movie, and I think she's still a good villain. She's good. The Crocodile from Moon Knight. Yeah, the villain of Moon Knight just wasn't good. I say the villain of Moon Knight was basically Moon Knight's personalities going against each other. That's the best villain there is in that show. But I'm not going to counter as awful. I'll counter as bad. I'm not going to that harsh. Titania, I think is her name, from She-Hulk. She-Hulk was a massive letdown of a show. It was horrible. Titania was an awful villain. Her arc just didn't really exist. She didn't really have an arc. Let's just say Icarus from Eternals. Yeah, he's actually a villain. He's a villain of Eternals. Because he turns on them and he helps the Celestials try to take Earth down. Icarus he's a cool villain. I liked Eternals a lot more than a lot of people because it really fit the style of what I like the Marvel movies being. So Icarus I will be putting in good tier, and this is the secondary villain of Eternals that they didn't need. I hated this villain of Eternals. They did not need this villain of Eternals. It was such a horrible side character that just made the film go down another notch for me. So I'm going to put this guy in. He's not bad, but he's more of a meh. Let's do the final ranking now. For awful, it's so hard to choose, but I'm going to have to put the guy who doesn't really talk in last. Put Titania a little more up. I'll put the Captain Marvel lady up top. I'll put these things above that guy, and I'll leave it like that. The bad tier. Let's see. Who do we want at the top of bad tier? I guess I'll put President Ross up there, and then I'll put a Collector, and then we'll actually put Whiplash. We'll put Whiplash up there, and then Carly, and then Infinity War villains can go. Infinity War villains can go up here just a little bit more, and then I'll put this guy at the end with that one, and then I'll put her there. Infinity Ultron, I'll actually put above. I'll put above Carly, and then I'll put the Iceman. The Iceman can go above her. Then the Black Widow villain. Shoot, Black Widow villain can go right there. I don't really care. You can go right there. Okay, on the meh tier. It's kind of hard to rate these when you have so many, but on the meh tier, I'm going to actually put Taskmaster a little bit more up. Put the gold people in first place. The fake Mandarin is going to go below Crossbones. Then I'll leave these Infinity War characters right there. This guy can go up. Jude Law is going up. And then I'll leave this guy at the end. And yeah, I think the meh tier looks fine. And okay tier, I think I'm going to leave Agatha where she is because she's almost in good tier. Caecilius can come up here a little bit. He can go up there. I'm actually going to put Caecilius in third place. And Ronan, I'll put him above Claw. I'll put him above there. Then, I will actually put Claw above the Iron Man 3 guy. Yellow Jacket can come up above Ghost. Abomination can go right there. And then, yes, Abomination. Shocker's going to go a little bit more down. And then, yep, Ethan Hawke, just because it's Ethan Hawke, he goes up right there. Yes. Then this guy goes down there. That looks pretty good. I'll give that. Okay, good tier. This is where we actually get pretty good. Red Skull and the guy from Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm going to leave them where they are. I'm going to bring Wanda up to third place. Bring Ultron up to fourth. Actually, put Ultron in third. Evil Doctor Strange can stay where it is. Jeff Goldblum can move down. Because he's not really a villain. Sandman can move. Sandman can actually stay there. He's a little bit better than Electro. Gore the God Butcher. Christian Bale did all you can for that one, but still not the best. So you're going to go above Electro. Next up, we got the great tier. The great tier, awesome tier. Killmonger is going to stay where he is, of course. Actually, I'm going to move Killmonger up to awesome. I don't care. He's awesome. Great tier, Mysterio and Vulture. I'm going to leave Mysterio where he is. I'm going to move Ego up. Nebula is going to actually come up above Ego. And Hela is going to come up. Man, this tier is so good. Actually, I'm going to put Jonathan Majors Kang up top. And then Mysterio. Then Nebula. And then Hela. Because Hela's great. Ego's actually going to go above Hela because I love Ego. Vulture. And then I'm actually going to put Namor in last because he has room to grow. And I think the great tier actually looks awesome where it is. And actually, I'm going to move Vulture above Hela. I like that. Awesome tier. So awesome tier is where I pick my true number one villain. Number one villain of Marvel, I have to go Thanos, you know. And then Loki was second. Bucky's number 3. Zemo, oh my gosh. Put Norman Osborn there. And then I'm actually going to put Zemo in last, even though he's great. He's going to go in last. Killmonger's going to step there. And that is the Marvel villain tier list. For now, that's all of them up to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. But overall, I had a fun time doing this tier list. Let me know more tier lists you want me to do down below in the comments. But as I said, make sure to like and subscribe to the video. But I'll see you next time. Peace out.